Before he could protest, she pressed her palm against his chest. Energy surged through him, hot and cold at once. His knees buckled, but she caught him with surprising strength. What are you doing to me?" he gasped, confusion and fear mingling in his voice. "Awakening what was locked away," she replied, her voice taking on a playful edge. "Don't tell me you're afraid, ancient guardian, the man who once faced down the Void Armada." Images exploded behind his eyes, massive ships like cities in space, energy weapons that could shatter planets, and himself, centuries younger, channeling powers he had forgotten he possessed. "This is impossible," he managed to say, struggling to grasp the reality of his memories. "Is it?" Leah's hand moved to his face, and where she touched him, years of weariness began to fade. "Your body remembers, even if your mind does not. Feel it, Daniel. Feel the star flow awakening." Energy coursed through his veins like liquid fire. His back straightened, joints that had ached for decades suddenly loosening, even his vision sharpening, the world taking on colors he had forgotten existed. "The first awakening is always the most intense," Leah said, supporting him as power continued to surge through his system. "But I must admit, watching you remember is particularly satisfying." "Why me?" he asked, his voice stronger now, deeper. "Because you were always the strongest of us," she replied, those violet eyes holding his gaze, "and because some things are written in the stars themselves." Her fingers traced a pattern on his chest, leaving trails of tingling energy. "Rest now. Tomorrow we begin your true awakening." As she stepped back, Daniel realized he was standing straighter than he had in years. His reflection in the window showed a face somehow younger, eyes burning with a light thought long extinguished. "I'll return at dawn," Leah said, moving toward the door. She paused, glancing back over her shoulder with a smile that sent heat through his rejuvenated body. "Try not to miss me too much, ancient guardian." Then she was gone, leaving Daniel standing in his living room, his body humming with power he had forgotten he possessed. Rex, who had been watching with knowing eyes, wagged his tail. Daniel flexed his hands, marveling at the absence of pain, the strength flowing through his muscles. Part of him wanted to dismiss it all as a dream or hallucination, but he could still feel Leah's touch on his skin, still smell that otherworldly scent that clung to the air. "What do you think, old friend?" he asked Rex. "Have we got one more adventure left in us?" The dog barked once decisively, and Daniel laughed, a sound he hadn't made in years. Outside, the stars seemed to shine brighter than before, calling to him with a song he was finally beginning to remember. Sleep eluded Daniel that night. His body thrummed with unfamiliar energy, muscles twitching with renewed vigor. He paced his modest living room, catching glimpses of himself in windows and mirrors, each reflection showing subtle changes. The deep lines around his eyes had softened, his posture straighter, shoulders broader. "This is insanity," he muttered, running fingers through hair that felt thicker than it had in decades. Rex watched from his cushion, head cocked to one side. The pre-dawn hours crept by with excruciating slowness. Daniel tried to distract himself in his workshop, but his hands trembled with excess energy. Even his tools felt wrong, too small, too crude compared to what he was beginning to remember. The first rays of sunrise painted his workshop in gold when he felt it, the same electric crackle in the air. Rex's tail began wagging before the knock even came. Daniel opened the door to find Leah leaning against the frame, her blue skin luminescent in the morning light. She had changed into what appeared to be combat gear, though it hugged her curves in ways that made his mouth go dry. "You didn't sleep," she observed, those violet eyes scanning him with obvious appreciation. "The energy can be overwhelming at first," she continued, stepping past him, close enough that her scent, stronger now like ozone before a storm, made his head spin. "Besides, your body needed to adjust naturally. How do you feel?" "Like I'm losing my mind," he grumbled, closing the door and turning to face her. "None of this makes sense. Ancient guardian, starflow, I was a soldier, yes, but nothing more." Leah's laugh was musical yet held an edge of challenge. "Is that what they made you believe? Or what you chose to remember?" She moved toward him with predatory grace. "Shall I show you more?" Before he could respond, she pressed both hands to his chest, pushing him back against the wall, and the energy flooded through him once again, deeper this time, awakening memories and power he thought lost forever.